Prague Travel Guide 2019. The top 10 places to visit this year in the Czech capital city. In this Prague Travel Guide, our aim is to highlight what we believe to be the top 10 places to visit this year in the Czech capital city. The Prague Travel Guide 2019 is not aimed at any specific groups, such as young families, 20-somethings or elderly tourists. Instead, this is more of a general travel guide, which will hopefully include something for everyone. Before we get onto the top 10 list of places to visit in Prague, let us first discuss exactly how you are going to travel around the Czech capital. Prague is actually a relatively small city, which means that if you are reasonably fit you will be able to get to many of these top 10 destinations on foot. And for us Prague veterans, there is nothing beher than to wander about the old town soaking up the ambience of the city. However, for those of you unable to do a lot of walking, you will be pleased to hear that Prague has a wonderful public transport system, which is very reasonably priced, consisting of buses, trams and of course the metro. The Prague metro is relatively straightforward to navigate, certainly compared to the metros of other European cities, such as the London Underground, and makes the perfect form of transport for the longer journeys you may need to make to get to a particular area of the city. Likewise, buses can be useful for longer journeys, such as from the airport into the city center, thus negating the need to use the infamous Prague taxis. But the form of transport that you will probably end up using most often are the simply wonderful Prague trams. And if you purchase a 24-hour Prague public transport ticket, in addition to being able to use the metro and buses within the city center, you will also be able to hop on and off of the trams throughout the day, which really is a great way to see the sights. A 24-hour ticket currently costs 110 Czech koruna, which is roughly €4.20. And if you are staying in Prague for a long weekend, then the best value ticket is going to be the 72-hour ticket for 310 Czech koruna, which is only €12. And it is worth noting that the prices mentioned are adult prices. Children between 6 and 15 can buy half-price tickets, while children under 6 travel for free. You are able to purchase tickets through the yellow ticket vending machines or at ticket offices, which are located at many of the metro stations. You can also buy tickets at the Tabak and Trafika stores, as well as some newsstands, and of course in tourist information centers. A word of warning though. You must punch your ticket to mark the start of the validation period in one of the validation machines that are located at the entrance to every metro station and on trams and buses. This is very important to remember, because if you do not do so, or if you forget, then you risk receiving a huge fine, if you get stopped and your ticket is checked. Okay, so now that you know how to get around Prague, the second part of this video will take a look at the top 10 places to visit in Prague, in 2019. But before we do that, here is a quick word from our sponsors.
Did you recently visit Prague, but forgot to buy yourself a decent souvenir? Or perhaps you found the gifts in the old town souvenir shops a little bit too tacky or touristy. Hey, if you left the Czech capital empty-handed, don't worry about it. Just get yourself over to the Prague shop on the Heart of Europe website and pick up a cool Prague t-shirt or one of our other Prague-related products that you just won't be able to find anywhere else, and certainly not in any of those tacky tourist traps. Our cool designs using authentic fonts will mean that you'll be able to fit in with the locals and not stick out like a sore thumb next time you visit Prague, or even your local Czech bar or restaurant for that matter. So stop being a tourist. Just head over to heartofeurope.co.uk/Prague and get yourself an original Prague souvenir that you can be totally proud of.
Okay, so without any further ado, here are the top 10 Prague destinations, in 2019, beginning with St. Wenceslas Square.
1.
St. Wenceslas Square is one of Prague's most instantly recognizable tourist spots, and makes a great starting point for any day trip in the city. One stop up from Prague's main railway station, on the Red Line, is the Museum Metro Station, which acts as a hub between the metro's red and green lines, and which brings you out at the top of Wenceslas Square, next to the famous statue of Saint Wenceslas. The museum in question is Prague's National Museum, which is now once more open to the public, although it is still in the process of being fully refurbished. The National Museum really is a spectacular-looking building and offers a wonderful view over the 750-meter-long boulevard that is Wenceslas Square. The square itself has witnessed many important happenings in the capital's history, perhaps the most famous of which was when the student, Jan Palach, set himself on fire to protest against the invasion of Czechoslovakia by the Soviet Union, in 1968. Today, Wenceslas Square is a vibrant area full of hotels, apartments, bars, restaurants and shops. At the bottom of the square, the Můstek metro station is situated, which acts as a hub between the metro's green and yellow lines, reiterating just why Wenceslas Square makes a great central point for any day trip in the capital. Turning right off the square at Můstek, you are presented with a street full of great shopping opportunities, including Marks and Spencer's and the wonderful Hamleys. However, if you continue straight on off of Wenceslas Square, you are just a short walk away from the second of our top 10 destinations. The Old Town Square.
2.
The Old Town Square is possibly the city's most well-known destination of all and really is a must-see for any tourist visiting Prague. Try to time your arrival on the square to coincide with the Prague Astronomical Clock striking the hour. And although the famous Astronomical Clock is well worth a visit, there is so much more to see on the Old Town Square, with its wonderful cosmopolitan atmosphere. As well as the bustling tourists, café terraces, horse-drawn carriage rides and the street vendors, selling typical Czech foods and drinks by the side of the town hall, there are also incredibly talented performers, who come from all over the world and put on shows throughout the day. One can witness jugglers, singers, pianists, actors, comedians, classical performances and alternative entertainment, which can literally keep the family amused for hours at a time. As well as the town hall and its astronomical clock, other notable buildings on the square include the Gothic Church of Our Lady before Tin, and the Kinsky Palace, which houses an art museum of the Czech National Gallery. If you then head northwest from the Old Town Square, you will find that you are only a short walk away from the third of our top 10 destinations. The Jewish Quarter.
3.
From the Old Town Square, head northwest down the boulevard of luxury watch and jewelry stores, until you reach the Jewish Quarter. Located between the Old Town Square and the Volta River, the Jewish Quarter is another destination not to be missed when visiting Prague. With its 6 synagogues and many other significant historical buildings, Prague's Jewish Quarter is the best preserved complex of historical Jewish monuments in the whole of Europe. The sinister reason why so many monuments managed to survive the Nazi occupation of Prague was because Hitler intended to preserve the Jewish Quarter as a museum of an extinct race. The Jewish Quarter is also the birthplace of the writer, Franz Kafka. And you will find that there is a memorial to Kafka, located near the Spanish synagogue. The Jewish Quarter actually backs onto the Volta River, so once you have explored the cemetery, synagogues, museums and other monuments, you may decide to enjoy a stroll beside the river, to the fourth of our top 10 destinations. The Charles Bridge.
4.
No trip to Prague would be complete without a visit to the beautiful Charles Bridge. Quite apart from the portrait painters, musicians and the many stalls selling a myriad of trinkets and souvenirs, there is a wealth of culture and history to absorb. The stone bridge, which was constructed in the 14th century, is decorated by 30 Baroque statues that were originally erected around the year 1700. If you don't like crowds, then probably the best time to go to the Charles Bridge is in the early morning. But it is also quite delightful to visit the bridge in the evening, to see the bridge when it is all lit up. During the day, the various vendors, buskers and street artists, together with the crowds of tourists, certainly make for a bustling atmosphere along the bridge. Meanwhile, the views of the river and the ornate buildings on both of its banks are simply spectacular. It goes without saying that amongst such a throng of people you should be careful of pickpockets. And you might want to avoid some of the less savory tourist shops and money exchange establishments on the Old Town side of the bridge. Far more pleasant in fact, is to walk across to the opposite end of the Charles Bridge. Here you will find a children's play park, which is a great vantage point to take in both the Charles Bridge and the Volta River, as well as the wonderful Lover's Bridge, with its thousands of love padlocks. And you will now also be close to the fifth of our top 10 destinations. Mala Strana.
5.
Mala Strana literally translates as the lesser side of Prague, which could not be further from the truth. This delightful area of Prague is one of the most enchanting parts of the city, with its cobblestone squares and historic buildings. The Baroque-styled Church of St. Nicholas is certainly a highlight, with its iconic green dome and bell tower. Meanwhile, Wallenstein Garden offers visitors a peaceful escape from the city. And then there is Nerudova Street, a steep road that leads up to Prague Castle, which is lined with embassies, restaurants, souvenir shops, ice cream parlors and a number of shops selling wooden marionettes and puppets. Most interesting of all are the delightful house signs, which tell the story of their famous inhabitants, including the Czech poet Jan Neruda, after whom the street is named. If you continue walking up Nerudova Street, you will eventually arrive at the 6th of our top 10 destinations. Prague Castle and St. Vitus Cathedral.
6.
Occupying an area of almost 70,000 square meters, Prague Castle is the largest ancient castle in the world. The castle is also home to the Czech president, and the crown jewels. An important part of the castle is St. Vitus Cathedral, which is among Prague's most interesting and beautiful buildings, and which dominates the city skyline. The cathedral is the burial place of the former Czech kings, and is one of the most richly endowed cathedrals in Central Europe. A word of warning though. The entrance ticket to St. Vitus Cathedral is quite expensive, and you should definitely get there early in the morning to avoid the inevitable queues. A better alternative might be to watch the changing of the guards at 12 noon. And last, but not least, let's not forget the views, which you are able to enjoy from up at the castle as well. Although Prague Castle is without doubt the biggest castle in the city, it is by no means the best castle in Prague. That honor goes to the 7th of our top 10 destinations. The simply wonderful Vyšehrad.
7.
Vyšehrad is far less well known than Prague Castle, which means you will find considerably fewer tourists when you visit here. The easiest way to get to the castle is via the Vyšehrad metro station, which is only 3 stops southbound from the Prague main railway station, on the Red Line. The Vyšehrad metro station is on the same level as the castle, so it saves you from having to walk up the steep hill from the nearest tram stop. The old fortress of Vyšehrad was built in the 10th century, and both the castle entrance and the admission to the surrounding grounds are free of charge. Meanwhile, admission prices to the various museums and expositions at the castle are reasonably priced, and even the guided tour is a fraction of the price you would pay at Prague Castle. You are also able to enjoy reasonably priced food and drink in the grounds, especially when compared to the tourist trap that Prague Castle has sadly become. Finally, you are once more able to enjoy stunning views of the city, while relaxing in this hidden gem of a destination. And if stunning views are your thing, then you will absolutely love the 8th of our top 10 destinations. Petrin Hill.
8.
One of the most fun things about a trip to Petrin Hill is how you actually get there in the first place. You'll need to take either tram number 9, 12, 15, or 22 to get to Újezd, where you can then take the funicular railway up to Petrin Hill. The funicular railway is great fun to ride, especially for kids, and you are able to use your 24-hour, or 72-hour, Prague public transport tickets. A word of warning though. If you need to buy a single journey ticket for the funicular railway, then please do not forget to validate the ticket before you begin your journey, otherwise you run the risk of getting stopped and paying a big fine. Once you have reached Petrin Hill, there are a number of things to see and do, such as the Mirror Maze, the Czech Ethnographic Museum and the Straho Monastery. However, the highlight of your trip will no doubt be to go up the Petrin Lookout Tower. The Petrin Tower in Prague is a 60-meter high replica of the Eiffel Tower in Paris, and was actually built 2 years after the original. The view from the lookout tower is amazing, but again, try and come early, because it tends to get very busy, especially during the summer months. One of the landmarks that you will be able to see from the lookout tower is of course, the Volta River, which just so happens to be the subject of the 9th of our top 10 destinations.
9.
Not so much a destination than an activity, but taking a cruise on the Vltava River is definitely something you should consider doing during the warmer months, while visiting Prague. Whether you choose a short 1-hour river cruise, as part of a larger tour of Prague, or a 3-hour dinner cruise at night, there is no doubt that this is one of the best ways to see the city sights. As well as the classic river cruises on the Vltava River, there are also canal boat rides, in the area that is known as the Venice of Prague, which you might also want to consider. Once you have decided the type of boat trip you would like to do, our advice is to take a look on TripAdvisor to find the most recent customer reviews, on which companies currently offer the best value packages. A river cruise is certainly a great way to get away from the hustle and bustle of the city. And if you would like to get even further away from the center, then you are going to love the last of our top 10 destinations. Prague Zoo.
10.
According to the most recent survey, Prague Zoo is currently the 5th best zoo in the world, and it is easy to see why. Prague Zoo is very well set out with a great selection of animals, and has more than enough to keep the whole family occupied for the day. This reasonably priced zoo will set you back 200 Czech koruna, which is only €8. Meanwhile, kids, students and senior citizens get in for 150 Czech koruna, or €6. But, if you are 70 or older, you can buy a ticket for only 1 Czech koruna, which is only 4 cents. Highlights of a visit to the zoo include Elephant Valley, the Polar Bear Enclosure, Penguin Pavilion, and the wonderful Indonesian jungle. The zoo also boasts some really fine restaurants, especially for fans of Asian cuisine. The easiest way to get to the zoo is via the Nádraží Holešovice metro station, which is only 3 stops northbound from the Prague main railway station, on the Red Line. From the metro, you need to get bus number 112, which will take you all the way to the zoo. Okay, so that was our Prague Travel Guide 2019. We would love to hear from you, in the comments below. Let us know your own personal experiences with any of these destinations. Or write in the comments, if you have a favorite Prague destination that is not in our top 10. Don't forget to subscribe to the Heart of Europe YouTube channel. Or visit the Heart of Europe website, at heartofeurope.co.uk. Thank you for watching.